Welcome to Resilience Through Apocalypse. I am so excited for everything you're going to be gathering from these conversations. I hope that you feel super supported, and if it's resonating with you, I invite you to share it with your friends, your family, and your community. This way, as many people as possible can have access to this resource. You can send them to rta.wearewsl.com. All right, let's get into this interview. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session of Resilience Through Apocalypse. And today we're focusing on body. And I had to ask my friend Jamie to be here today because, she's the founder. Are you the founder? Yeah, that's what I thought. She's the founder of Survival Arts, which I've actually been a part of. It's basically like they train you in self-defense, specifically in Pakiti Tirshi Kali. Did I say it right?
Yeah, Pakiti Tirshi Kali.
Okay, cool. And it's basically the indigenous fighting arts in the Philippine Islands. And they teach to specifically to other Filipinx women and other women of color. And I feel like being able to protect ourselves is a big part of being resilient during the apocalypse. So I had to ask her to be here. So welcome. Thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure and honor.
Yeah. Did you want to give a quick introduction about around survival arts and what it is?
Sure. My name is Jamie, and I started Survival Arts here in the Philippines, where I'm coming at you live from. And it's really to help protect women and children against violence and sexual assault. So that was the motivation starting Survival Arts.
That's awesome.
And what started as a mission really turned into a worldwide movement, because now we have groups training all over the world, from the east to west coast on Turtle Island, so from New York City all the way to the Bay Area and Los Angeles, and we also have groups here in the Philippines. So it's become a spreading wildfire because of how necessary this kind of knowledge is.
Definitely necessary. I feel safer in my body since going to your trainings. It's been amazing. So the question that we're always starting with asking everybody is what does resilience mean to you? But specifically in relation to our body.
Well, resilience to me is the ability to keep going, keep fighting, and really combat whatever's coming our way. I feel that our ancestors were resilient because as women and folks of color, we come from lineages of warriors. And each one of us is alive because someone in our bloodline or our lineage has survived. And so survival arts is really about tapping into that inner warrior power that we already have within us. So we honor our ancestors by honoring our own lives and by protecting our bodies against any kind of violence. Our very existence as women of color and folks of color is our resistance. The fact that we protect our bodies is the way that we can continue to resist against the powers that be. And then we also work to heal ourselves, because that's working to protect the next 7 generations ahead. So, our training is to fight to survive. And we train to fight because we want to make our bodies strong and resilient to disease, which is really dis-ease, and all forms of violence. And, when we think of training, we're really thinking of mind, body, and spirit, training all together, because the warfare that is coming at us is against not just our immune systems, not just our bodies, but also our mindset, our thinking, our fears, our connection to each other and to the divine. And so we want to train our mind and body and spirit, especially during this time, because we're up against multiple levels of violence and enemies that we can't even see, like this virus. So keeping our mind strong is what will help keep our body strong, and it will help us fight for the future. And, it doesn't matter how hard the battles may seem or how daunting or invisible our enemy may be, because we're fighting for life. We're choosing life. We recognize that life is worth living, that every moment in our lives can be ceremony, and we honor that within us. And so we also, think of ourselves as both warrior and healer within our bodies. And we want to tap into that sacred knowledge and that strength that's already within us, each and every one of us. And that's what survival arts is really all about. And that's what resilience to me is all about.
I love that. And that's another part that I love about your trainings, is that you do incorporate spirit into it. And it just gives it this like deeper experience. And I love that. And it also helps me feel connected to my ancestors, because like I don't really have access to like my lineage or anything like that. So like this is a way for me to have access to that. So thank you so much.
Like most of us don't have access, because we're taught not to. We're removed from it. It's historical. It's colonization that has kept us from the true narratives of our people and our history. And, unfortunately, most, Filipinos or those of the Filipinx diaspora are disconnected because we were trying to be Americanized, and we're still under this like American neocolonialism today. So
Definitely.
You're not the only one. We're all
in this, well, thank you for doing the work to like be the answer to that problem and that historical trauma that we experienced. So thanks for doing the work. Yeah. So like I'm really curious, like what inspired you to found the survival arts and to be the leader that you are, and to teach Kali and to teach us about like protecting ourselves against violence?
Like I said, I was inspired to create survival arts here in the Philippines, where I am today. And, what started as a vision and a mission really became a movement. And the vision was really to create a space where women and girls could train against violence safely and without the fear or judgment of men. As we all know, like most self-defense classes are taught by men, and nearly all martial arts are dominated by white men, especially in the Western world. So, the question became, where can queer, trans, women of color, and femme-identified bodies go to train against attacks? Where do we even feel safe? And so this was like really where I was coming from. And I started it here in Bacolod City, Philippines, because the urgency was I was hearing a lot about attacks happening on the jeepneys. And the jeepney is a form of public transportation here. And I was hearing a lot about young women and girls getting attacked on their commute to work or school. And the common attacks were robberies and knife attacks. And so I, was training personally in the arts of Kali, and I was thinking to myself, well, this is the perfect way to combat this situation, because Kali is a bladed art. It's all about knife fighting. And so, when you come to survival arts, we start talking about these issues, we start relating to each other, and then it's like, okay, now what are we going to do about it? We're going to learn what the proper response is to someone trying to grab you, choke you, attack with a weapon. Even if you don't have a weapon, your body is a weapon. And so that's the idea behind survival arts.
I love that. I love that. And I definitely feel safer because of it. And I love that during this pandemic that you're having like virtual classes, because I've been to classes, and then after the class I was like physically assaulted by somebody, and like everything that I learned just like went out the window. So like that's why I love that you're doing the virtual classes, because I feel like it has to be like how you say like stay ready. It's like, okay, in order to stay ready, I need to like have it be like this discipline, this practice that's like a daily thing for me, so that it's just like natural that I like know how to like protect myself when something's coming at me, or like you know, because sometimes it's also that like fight or flight where like I like freeze, you know, so it's like how do I like shift into that, and I feel like my freeze will become a like something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Respond. Yeah. So, you know, that's the thing also that I discovered in my own research. Psychologically, you know, we as humans, like any other animals, we respond naturally in a freezing position. We respond because that's the way that we've survived. We freeze in order to assess the situation, but in fact, freezing puts us in the greatest danger. And so, you know, the idea around training and self-protection for women and folks of color is that, well, we need to retrain our brains, unlearn to relearn, not just our history, right, and our indigenous knowledge, but also our bodies need to neurologically rewire so that we don't freeze. And this is what the military does. Wow. And they train in combat, right? And combat is all about moving into the war zone, right? No freezing, just charging. And that is the only way that we're going to be able to respond to the attacker in an effective way. When we freeze, we also freeze our brain. The executive functions in our brain just stop. And then we don't have any response to an attacker. We can't even assess the situation. So Kali for me is about retraining the brain to step in, retraining to move into the close quarters combat, because in the close quarters situation, you're actually safer. You actually can have more access to their body. You have more access to controlling the situation. Whereas at a distance, there's not much you can do. So, you know, me trying to figure this out for women and for folks, like we have to be able to unlearn, relearn, and move in and not freeze, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that little bit there. I'm definitely gonna like make that an intention as I practice more. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really I like to say stay ready, because you know if you stay ready, you never have to get ready. That's number one. And number two, we stay ready because we never know what's gonna happen to us, and we wanna be in a position where we can always protect ourselves and our bodies against attack. It's a lifestyle. You know, training is a mindset. It's something that we have to hone in on every single day, because like anything, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Like any language, right? So this is a language of the body.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. There's a lot of things that I used to be really good at before that if I tried to do now, I could not. So yeah. For people who are unfamiliar with Kali in general, could you like explain like what it is and why we train in it, like specifically that?
Absolutely. So Kali is one term that is used to describe an umbrella term of Filipino martial arts, which most people know as FMA. And that includes Arnis, Eskrima, and Kali. And each term, it really depends on the family and the region of the Philippines that family came from, which term they use. So each family made their own system of fighting to protect against the Spanish oppressors. So that's why there's no uniformity in our system, like in another martial arts like Taekwondo or, you know, Aikido or Karate. There's like specific forms that are very, very systematic. But in the Philippines, we have 7,107 islands, hundreds of different cultures, tribes, histories, languages, so that, you know, each family created their own system, and they just so happen to be weapon-based because we're also responding to the weaponry of the Spanish colonizers. So etymology says that arnes comes from the Spanish word for arnes de mano, which is harness or armor of the hand, because we do a lot of hand combat. And esgrima comes from esgrima, which is Spanish for sword fighting. But our Grandmaster teaches us to use the term Kali because Kali is actually rooted in our indigenous languages and writing systems. And we can express it in that way. So I'm, for example, wearing an amulet by my sister Buko Bomba that says Kali in Baybayin. And, that's really beautiful that we can actually root it in our indigenous languages. So we actually encourage folks to use the term Kali, but we don't argue with other systems and grandmasters that use their own terminology.
Yeah.
And, these are Spanish terms because the fighting system was a response to colonial violence, terrorism, and genocide against our peoples. And, this was our way of fighting back and surviving.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And I love that it's like our indigenous fighting arts and that we get to learn it now. And I also have some Babayan right there. I think that says, this one says love. Yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, like Kali also makes me feel like really spiritually connected to our ancestors, because it is our ancient indigenous fighting arts. Do you have any like inspiring examples of how our ancestors were resilient during the apocalyptic events of Spanish colonization because of Kali?
Yes. So the Spanish colonization of the Philippines was actually one of the longest colonial experiences in history. It lasted for 333 years from 1565 to 1898. And, this time was very, very brutal against our people and was a mass genocide and rape of women and just, horrific apocalyptic events. And our fighting arts was used to kill Ferdinand Magellan, who was the Portuguese colonizer or conquistador who claimed to discover the Philippines. So if you look at colonizer historical accounts, they will say that, Ferdinand Magellan just died in battle or died on his way back from battle, or, it's actually kind of interesting, searching for this kind of stuff. But the truth from the Philippines is that Ferdinand...
Oh, I think your sound kind of cut out a little.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there it is.
Sorry.
It's okay.
We know here in the Philippines that Ferdinand Magellan was actually killed by Datu Lapu-Lapu, who was the chief of Mactan Island. And so when Magellan arrived and, was trying to colonize the island, it was Lapu-Lapu that came and sliced his head off with a blade. And so to me, that's one of the most inspiring stories of our resilience and our warrior bloodline. And we recognize Lapu-Lapu until today. There's a statue and monument of him in Mactan Island, and there's the exact spot where Filipinos claim that Magellan was killed.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like pretty amazing. So if anyone makes it out to Cebu, go to Mactan Island and check out the spot where Lapu-Lapu killed Magellan.
That's
and
crazy.
Actually, I know, it's amazing because, the colonizer will tell a different story, but we know. And that Battle of Mactan was actually almost 500 years ago. It was 499 years ago on April 27, 1521. So that was like a few days ago, April 27. So it's a story that is still very much alive today. And I share that because a lot of people may not know the story of Lapu-Lapu, and we need to reclaim those stories and histories so that they don't get lost.
Yeah. I agree, and I love that story. I think there's actually a street in San Francisco called Lapu-Lapu in like the Philippine district. um, which I thought was really cool. When I like turned by it, I was like, does that say? It does. I loved it. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a great reminder of our resilience and how we were able to, you know, prevent at that time like an apocalyptic event from even happening further. And it shows a great example of our resilience. So thank you. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to ask was if you would be open to sharing any like quick and easy like self-defense techniques that people could learn right now and like maybe like practice, like take home with them and learn.
Yeah, I'd like to share a couple of things. I think the most important thing, first and foremost, is the mindset. You know, we have to really combat the fear that is being fed to us constantly. And, you know, that's the first thing that we do when we have our circles. You know, we sit down and we talk. We talk about, you know, what are the oppressions today that we're facing? What are the different ways that we are facing violence in our everyday lives, and how can we fight back? So the first lessons of survival arts are consent, respect, and setting boundaries. You know, teaching what is consent, even especially to children. You know, you can never start too young to let young people know what consent means and what it's not. And teaching what respect is and showing them what it looks like. And then also like setting bodily boundaries. Like, this is my personal space and only I have the right and the ownership to this space. So that's number one. The second thing I'd like to share is the weapons that you already have. The first weapon you have is your mind. This is the most powerful weapon you can have, and you can train it to be even more powerful and more effective. And again, that's a daily practice, but it's very possible. Number two, your weapon is your voice. In Survival Arts Academy, we practice saying no, especially when we have small children. You know, we tell them, okay, say no louder, say it again louder, because they have to practice saying no. You know, young girls are taught to just kind of go along with things, and that's not right. That's not correct. We have to teach them to say no and to set their boundaries at an early age. And then our third weapon is our body itself. So when you come to train with us, we'll teach you how to activate your hand blades. We'll teach you how to do some elbow strikes. We'll teach you that no matter what comes at you, you have a weapon there to respond. So getting folks in the right mindset is probably the most important thing, because violence is all around us and it's only getting worse, especially against queer, trans women of color, which is who we really focus on teaching and protecting. And also, instead of thinking of self-defense, we need to be thinking about self-protection in a very offensive way. And that's the Kali mindset, that's the blade mindset, is to counter, it's to step in, it's to move closer, it's to destroy fear and actually move into the attacker. And when you have this bladed art of Kali, you know, you are more effective and powerful in that space. I would love to show you some moves, but we actually have some videos on our channel that can better show.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if folks want to check it out, youtube.com/Survival Arts Academy. Our latest video was featured in Rappler News here in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. And I actually show a number of techniques demonstrating on my partner's body, where, you know, the grab series and also some choke attacks. So one thing I would like to share is, you know, if someone is like really coming at you in this space, your hand blades are right there, straight to the face. Mm. Right there, you know, straight to the here. And then also keeping your hand blade in a straight thrust to the neck, right? So if someone's coming here, thrust them right back in the same spot. And if you feel your space right here in the neck and you press a little bit, you'll feel a little bit of that pain. So imagine full force with a strong thrust and a straight hand, you know, that's your response right away. to a choke attack. And, you know, the first thing when we teach our bodies as a weapon is we teach hands up. So you can't fight with your hands flat down. You have to be always ready. And so that means also having your hands free. You know, you can't be holding a bunch of bags or a bunch of things. You know, what if you have a child in your arms? Your hands still have to be ready. Something's got to be ready to respond and run and survive. So those are the lessons to share. And I hope you can check out our YouTube channel for more.
Yeah, I haven't seen that video yet, so I'm definitely going to check that out. So thank you. So how else can people keep in contact with you, or if they're like really interested in like taking a training, like do you have any upcoming trainings that people can do, or how can people like stay in touch?
Yeah, so well, we're on all the social media channels. So we have our Instagram at Survival Arts, Facebook is Survival Arts Academy, and our YouTube channel is also Survival Arts Academy. Right now, we're offering virtual trainings for our current students only, for those who have already trained with us. That's because it's really hard to teach online, but I'm trying to develop some curriculum to share the pedagogy behind Survival Arts Academy and open that up to the public, or at least to women and folks of color. So stay tuned for that. We'll be announcing that on our Instagram and our social media. And in the meantime, check out our videos, because there's a ton of material there. We've done a number of news reports and interviews with folks. So our last one with Rappler was really good because I actually show like several techniques, and then they review it and slow it down. So it's something that I really encourage that folks can watch and share with those they love to protect against all kinds of violence.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned the slowing down part, because that's something that I guess I kind of forget to do. And I feel like if I do that, it would be easier to digest it and and take it in. So thank you. Well, thank you for telling us about the YouTube and how we can keep in touch. It was really an honor and a blessing to have you here. I feel super grateful. And I hope that the viewers watching can feel a little bit more resilient, knowing that different ways that they can protect themselves and keep safe, even now without any training. So thank you for that. Stay tuned for more interviews. I think tomorrow we're focusing on relationships. So bye.
Thank you. Stay ready.
Stay ready.